So I was thinking about this deal I did at the beginning of my wholesaling bird dogging career, real estate investing career. This deal almost made me run away from real estate investing. It was kind of like one of the worst situations you really want to be in. Other than my first deal, which I did a video about on my channel. In my first deal, like I almost got sued. Well, not sued. This deal, I almost got sued in this deal. But in my very first wholesale deal, I almost had the real estate commission of my state come after me or whatever. This bank was going to report me to the real estate commission of my state. That was my very first deal, and I did a video about that on my channel. But this deal here was like my second one. So I went from that first deal of almost, you know, being investigated by the real estate commission to this deal being, threatened to be sued by the cash buyer. So I found this deal on Craigslist. So I found this deal on Craigslist. And if you take a look at my screen here, so the deal was a really good deal from the start. This person had this house for sale on Craigslist for $20,000. I think it was, I think it was 20,000 actually. Like 20. I didn't even have to negotiate it. He wanted $20,000 for this deal, and it was a man. It was in a okay area. Excuse me. It was how many? What was the square footage on this thing? It was like 2,000 square feet. So it was like 2,000 square feet. It was a nice house. It was a two-story house. It's a two-story house, and it was in an okay neighborhood. So it was in an okay neighborhood. Oops. So okay neighborhood. I mean, yeah, really need to know that it was in an okay neighborhood. Okay. Um. So this person was on Craigslist selling this house, and when I saw it, I was like, man, this is crazy. So I went to Zillow. I was like, this huge house, and this person wants $20,000 for it. I was like, this is just, it's too good to be true. So I went to Zillow, and Zillow said that the house was worth about 100 and like $20,000. This is how much the house was worth. This was the Zestimate, 120K, and the person wanted 20K on Craigslist for it. And in the description on the listing on Craigslist, like in the description, the guy was saying that he said he travels a lot, and he was saying that a person had just moved out of this house. One of his tenants moved out of this house because apparently he has more houses. So his tenant moved out, and the house needed too many updates and too many repairs, and he didn't want to deal with it because he was traveling. So that was in the description. So I was like, okay, so there's some motivation there, So there's motivation there. But how realistic is this? Even in my early days of wholesaling, I was still skeptical of a lot of everything. So I didn't know if this was true or not. So I saw the phone number, and at this time I was so early in my wholesaling career, investing in real estate career, that I was too afraid to call people. So I didn't even call the guy. I got his number, but I didn't text him or anything like that. I just got his phone number because I knew I was going to need it. But I got his email address. And I think on Craigslist, when you reply to a person, you get I think you're communicating through email anyway. I believe that's how it works. But anyway, I got his email address, and I emailed him about the particulars of this deal. I asked him what was the bed and bath count, and he said that it was like I think it was like a 5 bed, and it was like a 3 bath or something like that. I think that's what it was. And so I asked him about that, and then I also asked him, what's the condition of the house? So I asked him about the condition, and he said it was in. He did say, like he said in the listing, that it needed some work. So he told me all of this, and I was like, okay, so the condition is probably like a D or something like that. So the condition was D. It needed a new roof. It needed a lot of things. It was an old house. I think it was built in. Let's see, year built. I think it was built in like the 1940s or 50s. I think it was built in like the 1940s or 50s. So it was an old house. It's a really old house, but it was, like I said, it was in an okay neighborhood. It was by a really nice neighborhood. But the neighborhood that this house was in, it was an okay neighborhood. It was near downtown in the city. It was near downtown, but not really in downtown. So it's still, it has some nice characteristics to it. The neighborhood did as well. There were some people in this neighborhood doing a lot of renovating. So there was a lot of flippers and homeowners in the area fixing it up, making it look beautiful. So that's a good sign when you go through a neighborhood and see people renovating houses. That's a good sign. That means that people want to live there. It's a desirable location, and people really care about their homes in the area. So, when I saw people, when I rode through this neighborhood for the very first time, because like I said, I was still new. When I drove through this neighborhood and I saw some people renovating, I was like, okay, so this is a good area. So I talked to the guy, that first time, that initial time, and I asked him all these things, and then I was like, man, do you really want 20,000? I asked him that. I was like, you want 20,000 for it? He was like, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of it quick, so I'm pricing it to sell. And I was like, man, I'm interested. Can I want to buy it. That's what I told him at the time. I was like, man, I want to buy it. Can I send you over a contract? And he was like, yeah. And and see, that was another mistake I made, doing this deal. I wanted to be detached from the people and everything. I just wanted to kind of like do this over the phone and on my laptop and just at the house, and not actually get out there and just see people. And that was a mistake. That was a mistake. I was really scared during those first few years of investing in real estate. I was ambitious, but I still hated to be around people in those early days. I hated to be around people. And so I was trying to do all this, without seeing the guy. So I was like, man, can I send you a contract without meeting the guy? And he was like, okay, because like he said in the description, he traveled a lot. So this guy was traveling. He told me also in this initial conversation that we had through email, he was telling me that he was going to Romania to work. So he was going back and forth from the United States to Romania for his job or whatever. So he was coming back and forth, doing a lot of traveling to Europe as well, and just really the whole he was going to Germany, and he was all around Europe. So it was okay for him to accept my offer to sign a contract through email, because he was traveling anyway. When I was talking to him, he was in Romania. So I sent him over the contract, and he signed it and sent it back to me. So when he sent it back to me, I sent him a message when he sent me the contract, and I said, man, how can I get in here? And he said he has a groundskeeper, I guess is his lawn guy. So he said, I got a groundskeeper who watches the place for me, and I'll give you his number, and then you can meet him and get the key, and you can look inside of it. And that was kind of sketchy. Looking back, I'm like, okay. So you got a groundskeeper, you got a lawn guy who has the keys watching the house for you. I was like, okay. So I went and met up with this guy. I called him, and then I met up with this guy later that week, and I met him, and he gave me the key, and he took, he escorted me to the house. He went over there with me because he said he wanted to show me around because he talked to the owner, and so he knew about my intentions and who I was. So he showed me around the house, gave me the key to keep because I had the house on the contract. So they thought I was going to buy, but really I was looking for a buyer. I didn't have a buyer at all at this time. This was very early in my wholesaling real estate investing career. It was very early. I didn't have any buyers at all because I was always taught online, like you get the deal first and then you get the buyer. But it's best to have both. It's best to look for both at the same time, constantly. Deals and cash buyers, new cash buyers. You're constantly looking for these two things all the time. And that's what I teach in my course. And, look in the description if you want to learn. But so he gave me the key, showed me around the house, gave me the key. And then he left, and I locked the door, went to my car, and I was like, man, this is a great deal. I mean, the house was big and it was old and it needed a lot of work, but I was like, man, I got this thing for $20,000, and Zillow says that, the average selling price of houses around this house is 120K. And I didn't really look in depth. I didn't really look at Zillow at the neighborhood like I usually do now. Nowadays, like I take a more in-depth look at the neighborhood and what houses are selling for. And I try to match these up, the characteristics of a home. I try to match it up with comparables. So if I would have got this deal today, I would be looking on Zillow for 5-bedroom, 3-bed houses, which is kind of rare to find. So I would be looking for something that's close to the square footage of this property in this neighborhood in particular, not, a mile down the road or 2 miles across town. I will be looking in this neighborhood. And if there aren't any recent sales in this neighborhood that I can use as comps, then I would go to the next neighborhood, something that's, that's close by, but around the same square footage, and also 2-story as well. This is really specific. This is a specific deal. And these houses are, some of the houses in this neighborhood are kind of different, but for the most part, they're the same. They're built around this time, and there's some 2-story homes in this, a lot of 2-story homes in this neighborhood as well. But during the time, I just looked on Zillow and seen what Zillow had, and it said 120. So I just ran with that. I just ran with that because I was like, man, look at this. It's $100,000 worth of spread here. I was like, I don't care, about the particular, like getting in depth with the value of the home. I said, there's $100,000 worth of spread here. This is a deal. No matter what you had to put into it to get it to A condition, B condition, whatever you had to put into it, it was there. The money was there. So like I said, I got the key, then I left, and I started looking for cash buyers. So the first thing I did was I created another listing on Zillow, and I had my listing. So I created another listing, and I had this thing for sale so this is me. I had this thing for sale for $35K on Craigslist. So I had it for sale for $35K. And I also posted it on, did I post it on Facebook? I think I only posted it on Craigslist during this time. So I posted on Craigslist only. And did I put a sign out in front? I think I may have put a sign out in front of the house as well. So I had this thing for sale online on Craigslist in particular. So I had it for sale online on Craigslist, and I had a sign out in the front yard, I believe. So I had it online, Craigslist, and I had a sign in the front yard that said $35K for sale by owner. I'm not the owner. I hate those signs because they only say for sale by owner or for rent. You never really see, they probably do have some for sale that just says for sale. But the signs that you really want that you can write on and you can put the price and everything on, they say for sale by owner for the most part, these signs. I only look in Lowe's for them, but there may be some more signs out there that just say for sale. Maybe they have some, I haven't looked in a while. Even the ones I have right now that I put out in front of houses that I get under contract, they say for sale by owner, and it's kind of like false advertising. It's kind of, it's not really, it's just kind of crazy because in the past I've had people say, "Oh, I saw your sign outside. How much do you want for it?" And then we get on into it. We get on into the conversation, and they're like, "Okay, so you're not the owner. So what's the deal with that?" And then you have to explain what you do. You kind of really want to explain it from the get go. Like nowadays, if I would have received a call like that, if someone was to call me from a sign that I have in front of a house that I have on the contract of a sale by owner sign that I put out, I would tell them right from the start, "Hey, this is not my house. I have it under contract." So you would have to say something like that instead of just, talking like you are the owner. But so I had a sign out and I had it for sale online on Craigslist, and I got a call from a guy. And he was really, really interested. And he arranged for us to meet the very next day. So we met the next day, and I met him, and we talked for a bit, and then we walked around the house, and he was saying all these things he was going to do to the house. You're like, "Man, this is a great deal." He said, "This is great for 35,000," and he was saying what he was going to do with it and everything, and once he walked it and everything, we signed a contract. So we signed a contract for 35K. So we signed this. He signed it, didn't even look at it. He just put his signature in, and we signed it together. I put my signature, he put his signature. He didn't even read it. He just signed it. And he was like, "Man, you'll get a call from me in the next couple of days, and I'll tell you where we're going to close at." So, at this point I was like, "Man, I got a sweet deal, and this is crazy because this is like my second deal." I was like, "This is crazy. I'm going to make 15K here. I'm going to make 15K as an assignment fee." I was like, "Man, this is crazy." I said, "I'm going to make $15,000, and this is my first year doing this." I was like, "Man, this works like crazy. The internet is right. YouTube is right. This works." But then a couple weeks passed by, and I get a call from this cash buyer. So I get a call from him, and he said, "Man, we got a problem." I said, "Man, what's the problem? What's going on?" And I'm excited. I'm planning how I'm going to spend this money and everything. I'm like telling my wife, I'm like, "Man, we got 15,000. Like we've already made it." And I don't do that anymore. And my wife kind of hate that I do this now. Like everything is negative with me these days. Like I don't even once I get a deal on the contract and I get a cash buyer to sign it, sign that contract, they take over my place in the contract. We do an assignment of contract. Even when I do that and everything is set, closing is scheduled and everything, I don't even get excited until I get the money in my hand, until I get the check. I don't get excited. I don't look at it like I have the money, you know what I'm saying? I don't look at it like nothing because anything can happen. And this deal right here kind of taught me that, not to be naive and not to be, too optimistic, overly optimistic. Don't start counting this money until you get it in your account. You know what I'm saying? Until they give you the check, then you get excited or whatever, because these things can fall through just like this deal did. So the guy called me, the cash buyer called me, was like, "Man, we got a problem." I said, "Man, what's the problem?" He said, "Man, somebody tried to sell me the house that me and you have a contract on, the same house. So someone else was trying to sell him the house." And I was like, "Bro, who's trying to sell you the house?" And he wouldn't tell me who. He just said, man, somebody has this house on the contract. You have it and someone else has it on contract. And I was like, man, what? And he was like, man, yeah. He was like, yeah, but because of this, you looking at a lawsuit. Like, I'm going to sue you because of this situation. And I was like, you gonna sue me? I said, bro, listen, what do you need me to do? What do you need from me? I don't, I just said that to him. I said, man, what do you need? Because I didn't have no money to go through a lawsuit and all that. But what I found out is this cash buyer, he loves to threaten lawsuits to everyone. I started working with him over the years and we became really good friends. But I started working with him over the years, and over the years, as we did more deals, he was threatening people with lawsuits all the time. Like if they wouldn't close, he would try to, sue people, to really threaten them. He would not, follow through with the suits or anything like that, because there's been a couple deals that have fell through, that we didn't close on, and he threatened to sue the sellers, but he never did. It's just a threat. So this is what he was doing to me at the time, but he knew I was really new, and he knew that that would scare me, at the time. But he was like, man, you're looking at a lawsuit, man. You need to fix this. That's what he was saying. I was like, man, what do you need me to do? And he said, man, you need to call these people. You need to talk. Have you talked to anybody? And I was like, man, I haven't talked to anybody. I told him, I said, man, I've only been talking to this guy who owns this property. And I gave him the name of the person. And he said, okay, that's the name of the person that owns the property. So he said that, man, it's that guy that owns the property, he's trying to double dip. He's like, he has multiple people selling his house for him. So there's probably another person or another person out there that has his house on a contract as well. I think what happened was the lawn guy. I never knew it. I never really caught his name. He was a weird guy. I think the lawn guy was trying to sell this house as well. I think he was trying to wholesale this house to multiple people. And he was like getting multiple people interested, getting multiple offers. He was getting multiple offers, and he was trying to pick the highest offer. And see, he was keeping that from me. This guy was keeping that from me. He should have told me that he had it under contract with multiple people, but he didn't. That guy was shady. This lawn guy, he was a shady guy, really shady guy. You can just tell by, a person's vibe. He was just shady. And I should have known that, but I was so ambitious and anxious to make money in the beginning. I didn't understand that there's risk when you do this, when you invest in real estate, man, you really hanging out with these people who are, I kind of equate it to like streets, like the streets, like these people are just regular, ordinary people. And most of these people are out here trying to make money. And see, there's two different types of people who want to make money nobly. And then there's people who want to make money any way they can. So you got people that want, so there's two types of people that want to make money doing it the right way. And then you got people that want to make money doing it the wrong way. They want to get money by any means necessary. And see, this guy was one of those people that you did not want to be around or be do business with. This guy was a shady guy, but I was so naive in the beginning. I just believed him. I figured like in real estate, it wasn't like street life. Like, you got people who are snakes, and I thought that all these people were professional people. You know what I'm saying? Because the culture that I come from, I'm not saying that I was in the streets or anything like that necessarily, but I was around it, and that life is just crazy. I thought people who had homes and everything like that, who dealt in real estate, I thought I was dealing with a bunch of professional people. You know what I'm saying? But I realized that these people are like ordinary people, and everybody's shady in their own particular way and fashion. The way people hang out in the streets and the hood and things like that. People do that in other cultures. They do the same thing. It's the same thing. We're all regular people, and you got people that lie, cheat, steal in any culture. Any set of circumstances. I mean, the things that were like, I'm reading books these days now, since I'm older. I'm reading books about Wall Street and the great financial crisis and all the crises, all the recessions. I'm reading about them. I read about the Great Depression, in the 1930s, and I mean, even those people, they wearing suits and ties, and they are shady people that steal and do all types of heinous acts. I was kind of naive, coming from where I came from. I was thinking that all these people would be trustworthy people, but they weren't. There was people that it was just like the streets. These people are like, they shaded some shady people, and this guy was one of them. This guy was one of them people. So he had this house under contract with several other people. The cash buyer was telling me that he was going to sue me, and he was like, "Man, you need to call these people. You need to call them." So I looked online and tried to find this guy's number. I emailed him, and he didn't email me back. So I looked online and I found this guy's family's number. And I said, "Man, I got this." I was talking to the cash buyer. I said, "Man, I got his family's number. I can't find his number." He said he's overseas, and I sent him an email, and it's been like 2 days, and he hasn't sent me something back. And my cash buyer was like, "Man, you know what? I've been through this situation before. This guy's trying to scam us." So he said, "Man, give me the number." So I gave him, the cash buyer, the number to this guy's family. I just Googled him or whatever and found some of his family members. And the cash buyer called this guy's family members, because the cash buyer was like, he was like, "Man, I bet this guy doesn't even live in Romania or travel to Romania. I bet he doesn't do any of the things that he told you that he does." And I was like, "Okay, man," what I'm saying? And he called him and he spoke to this guy's sister. And his sister said that he does work in Romania and he travels a lot, and he actually lives and owns this property, like it says in the county records. He said, his sister was like, he's a real guy, he's not a fake guy. And the cash buyer called me back and told me all that. He was like, "Man, this is a real deal, but we can't get in contact with the guy." This guy, like I said, he would not return my email, because we was asking him about this loan guy. We was like, "Man, this guy has your house under contract with multiple people." And I sent that to him in the email, and he never emailed me back again. I never heard from him again after that email, after I sent that email to him. So months passed by, and me and the cash buyer are sitting around like, we don't know where this guy is. We don't know where this guy is. I mean, the cash buyer had the title company try to contact this guy. Couldn't get in contact with the guy. The guy's sister couldn't get in contact with him or nothing. He just went dark. And we never heard from him. So we closed the deal. So the deal, we just ended it. We just ended the deal. And you know what? This guy sent me a message back months later. He sent me a message back. And he was like, "Oh man, he said he was traveling, doing more traveling, and he went somewhere else, and he couldn't have access to, I don't know what he said. He was just lying, he was just lying. Maybe him and this loan guy had something going on together, and they had another person willing to pay more than what we were willing to pay. Or actually it was the 20,000 that we was giving to them. The 15 of this right here was coming to me. As an assignment fee. So, maybe they had something crazy going on, but, this deal ended, we dropped this deal. And me and the cash buyer actually stayed really good friends and did many, many, many deals after this. Because he had, and I think I spoke about this in another video as well. He spent about $500 on an inspection, an appraisal. So he did an appraisal on his house, and he spent $500 on it. And see, he looked at that as a loss. That was a loss for him. So he expected me or somebody to pay him back, because we was talking on the phone. He was like, "Man, I spent $500 on this deal, man, and you presented this deal to me, man, and if I would have never, met you and went and saw this property and signed your contract and thought I was going to buy this property. And then, he would tell me like it was, man. I'm glad he did, because it really taught me a hard lesson in the beginning. Like, you have to really know who the sellers is, or you got to know the person that you're talking to. You got to talk to them on the phone. You got to talk to them, meet with them. You got to go meet with them. That's why, like, these days, I jump in the car and go meet the seller these days. Like, I'm jumping in. I'm like, okay, what time can you meet me there? What time can you meet me at the house today? Like, right now, can you meet me there right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm jumping in the car and going to meet them. I'm not playing, these days, because you grow after you keep doing this. After you make all these mistakes, you start growing. And it's really, and that's really the great thing about, doing something like this or anything. Once you do something for a long time, something that you're not used to doing, that's uncomfortable for you in the beginning, it's really the universe telling you that you need to do it so you can get out of that comfort zone that you're in. Before I started investing in real estate, I was a social guy, but when it came to being professional and running a business and things like that, like, man, I was doing it like it was just a hobby. But see, and then I was kind of like apprehensive of talking to people about numbers and deals and talking numbers and talking, negotiating and all that. Man, I didn't know how to do none of that. But when I started doing this, man, this really made me to the person that I am today. Like, negotiating and doing all this is nothing now. It was a part of me that needed to grow. And it's just the universe just put me in this position to where I could, I got interested in this and I started doing it. And it really took that part of me that was, you know, non-existent basically, and made it like, okay, now this part of you, the part that didn't want to be professional, that didn't want to be running a business and didn't want to talk to people about numbers and deals and business and negotiating, that part of you has now grown, and it's still growing, and it makes you feel good, bro. It really changes your life when when you get out of your comfort zone and do things that you have never done, and you get good at it. You at least get decent at it, and that's leaps above where you were before. But like I said, he lost his $500 here on the appraisal, and he said, man, I lost this deal because you didn't really look into the seller and make sure it was an actual deal. You just brought me whatever you had. He was telling me the truth, bro. And it's good. Like I said, it was good he was doing that, because he was teaching me at the same time. He was telling me the truth. He was like, man, you gotta look into these deals, man. You gotta know who you talking to. You can't be scared and apprehensive. You gotta know who you talking to. So I offered to pay him this $500. So I paid him this out of my money, out of my own money. I had a couple, I had like $10,000 or $15,000 at the time. So it wasn't nothing to me. And I wanted to show him that, man, I really apologize for putting you through this situation. I'm naive and incompetent at this. I'm new at this, what I'm saying? I really wanted to, make everything right with him, because I knew he was an asset, the way he was talking. And, I knew that he was a person that was really skilled in real estate. I can learn a lot from him. I knew that he had the money, the way he was talking. And when I met him, what I'm saying, the type of person he was, and the way he was just throwing these numbers out like they weren't nothing, like 35K. He was like, oh, he was like, man, 35K. He was like, man, I'll give you that. I'll give you that in a couple of days when we close. And he turned out to be a really valuable asset. And he really helped me in my growth in this business. Like like exponentially. Like he, he taught me everything I know basically. And he didn't even really just take me under his wing and be like, man, this is what you do. He didn't even do that. He just told me stories like I'm kind of doing with you on YouTube. Like, he just told me stories and I learned from stories. I just was listening to him. We was just talking. We met probably only about 3 or 4 or 5 times in person, Otherwise, we just work really through text and email. Like if I go see a house and I'm wholesaling him the house, he'll go see it, and I don't even have to be there. He'll just go see it. I'd be like, man, I got this house on the contract, man. It's at this address. You can go see it anytime. I already arranged everything with the owner and everything, so you can go there anytime. And he'll go see it, and he'll be like, man, I want it, and we'll sign a contract. I'll email him a contract, and he'll email it back to me, and then we go to closing. And he give me a check. Like we have only seen each other like 3 or 4 times in person. And the last time we seen each other, we was like, man, we got to see each other more than this, bro. Because we was just hanging out and just kicking and having a good time. And I was like, man, we need to kick it, man. But we got families. He's 30 years my senior. So he's at a different stage of life. Like, he's living in Florida for part of the year, and then he moves back here. You know what I'm saying? So him and his wife are at a different stage than me and my wife. We're beginning. We are in our hustle stage, beginning stage. He's already done that. And he's kind of in that. He's almost retired from real estate, but he still manages his properties or whatever. But he has a person that he's training to take over his management duties of his properties. So he's almost to that stage. So he's at that age where he likes giving advice and teaching from afar and whatever. He don't really have time to be like right here over my shoulder looking at everything that I'm doing. So, and I like that. I don't really want nobody right next to me. You know what I'm saying? As long as you're a call away or a text away, and if I got a question or if I got a situation I need you to look at for me, he'll look at it, you know what I'm saying, and tell me, he'll tell me, he'll be like, oh man, don't buy this at this price. You need to get this for this price. That's a terrible price. Or I'll send him a deal and he'll be like, man, you need to buy it, man. You need to buy that at, if you can get it for $70K, you need to buy it. And then you can do this to the inside. He'll tell me everything I need to do in the inside to it, so, when I start, getting into renovations and all that, I don't even know how much I'll get into that. But, I always got a person to call for advice and be like, man, what should I do? What kind of flooring should I put in here? So me and this guy, so I sent him this money, man. I sent him this money the next day. I sent this express in the mail. I sent this to him the next day, and he was really impressed by that because he thought that I was going to drag this out. He probably thought I was a person that didn't have any money whatsoever. And see, you can't get into this with no money whatsoever. You got to have some. You need to have some. You need to have, you need to have some money. You know what I'm saying? Like, go work your job or whatever, and then you get into this. You need to put you away a couple $1,000s just in case something like this comes up. Because, yeah, even though I gave him this $500 and it was a loss for me, over time, I made this $500 back plus tens of thousands of dollars. You know what I'm saying? So many, 5 figures like crazy. Like from this one guy, I paid him $500. I took a $500 loss when I first met him, but this $500 turned into like whatever, $70K, 50, whatever he done paid me over the years. Like, so, that's the story. And it's just a lesson learned, man. Like some of these, man, you got to really like look into these deals, man, and look into these sellers and make sure they legit. Cause, these deals, man, they can fall through, man, at the last second. Like this is crazy. Like we was getting ready to close on this deal like in the next week or something like that. Cause the guy had signed, you know what, that guy, man, that seller had signed a contract. No, he didn't. He never signed a contract yet. So we emailed, when I told you that I emailed him to see what the hell was going on with, the house being on a contract with so many other people. Well, it was really one other person, but we was just guessing that he had it, that this loan guy and this owner had this house on the contract with multiple people trying to see who would give him the most. But when I sent him that email, asked him about that, we also had sent him the contract so he can sign it, with the new buyer, with the cash buyer on this new contract. It was an assignment of contract, so I was on there as well. But it was just saying that the title company was going to switch the names. The cash buyer was going to be the actual buyer, and I was going to get a fee for giving him my position in the contract. So we had sent him that, and he never sent it back. Um, and you know, the guy, the deal fell through. That's what I was saying. I was saying that these deals fall through, and you never know at what point during that period. It's supposed to be your due diligence period, but the period between you getting the house on the contract and until you get to closing, because we had like a closing date set and everything even before he signed the contract. My cash buyer, like he works really really closely with, because he's doing multiple deals every month. So he has his person at the title company that he works with. She's always on it. Like, she can give him a date and he doesn't even have to have the house on the contract yet. He's like, can we close on Friday, next Friday? And she'd be like, yeah, we can do that. I can arrange it. Yeah, we can do that. And he doesn't even have the house on the contract yet. And so this deal was like that. We had the date set, and we told the owner about it and everything. We had the date set, and it was like in the next week. Because he was really excited about buying this, and I felt bad that he was so excited about this, because this was going to be a steal of a deal. And what I found out later was, this property was really worth like 150. This house was really worth. He was going to sell it for 150. That's why he was so excited, because he had 100. He had 100 and, what is that? So because he was going to give me 35. Whatever that is, he had like over $100,000 in spread there that he can get in there and do whatever he wanted to do to it and still make a pretty nice profit. So that's all I want to talk about today. I'll talk to you later.